Hello, welcome. Here we are. I just drove through an unbelievable, it wasn't a snowstorm, but wow, a super icy, snowy road for half an hour to get in from my my winter cabin retreat. And I was like, oh, maybe I should have just stayed home. But I'm really glad to be here. I'm really glad to welcome my dear friend, Sue Grockmel. Thank you for joining us, Sue. What's the weather like where you are?
It's pretty warm compared to what it was. So we had like really cold weather. We had a cold snap for about 5 days.
Yep.
Then it got quite warm, and now it's kind of icy
Yeah.
rain. But the roads are kind of not so good. But what was so interesting when it was so cold, we had some blackouts. So people didn't have power for 3 hours. I know my daughter in Cochrane, just out of Calgary here, didn't have, and then apparently half of Cochrane didn't have
Mhm.
heat. And we're talking cold, like -35. So yeah.
Yeah, and for those of you down in the States and down south or wherever you're tuning in from, yeah, Sue and I both live in Canada. We both live in Western Canada. We live about, how far apart do we live, Sue? Like maybe 10 hours?
Yeah, tops.
About 10 hours apart, which for in Europe, that's like two countries away from each other.
Yeah, not more.
But
Yeah,
here we're like, oh, you're a neighbor. Hi, neighbor.
yeah, that's just it. Yeah.
You're just down
Just a
the road.
walking over, no big deal.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been very similar where I am. Super cold, like -35. And again, if you're in Fahrenheit, I guess at -40, it's the same between Celsius and Fahrenheit. We're in
Right,
Celsius
40
here in
below.
Canada right now. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's cold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ricky Green was saying it was 17 degrees today in South Alabama, but it must be Fahrenheit, so he's saying it's cold.
Yeah. So I feel like, and I subscribed to Geoengineering Watch. I really like that information. And it is a lot about, weather modification stuff, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there was a notice that I got this morning about some document, US military document that was talking about, it's the Climate Control Agenda 2025. And it was talking about flash freezing events. Flash
Yeah,
freeze.
that's exactly what this was like. Flash freezing totally was like
Yeah.
that. It was like they
So
turned it on and then turned it off. It was crazy.
yeah,
Someone
because that's the other thing, like what I'm noticing. I mean, gosh, we're Canadians, right? And I've been in this game for decades here in Canada, and it's always been, you have cold weather in the winter. I mean, that's no big deal, right? We
Yeah.
expect there's going to be a week or two or three, probably where you are, Sue, more like 4 or 5 or 6 weeks of, -20 and below that. But these extreme fluctuations of going from like, +10 to -35 in like 24 hours, that I've never encountered until like the last 10 years.
Wow. Okay, so
And
Gordon Hole is saying Tesla. So that's interesting. Do you want to pull some cards on the weather and what's going on with these
yeah,
cold
let's,
now?
I
So
feel
what's
like that, and also the grids, as you were saying, yeah.
So here's the other thing. So apparently there was some military helicopters flying over just south of Calgary here during the cold snap. So that's curious, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Mhm. And then they're talking about rolling blackouts, and it's just like, oh well, like we're using too much energy. But hey, like we're in Canada, there's more people in California than there is in all of Canada, right? Like it's not like we're Europe. So
Yeah.
then
Okay.
like so there's 1 million people here in Calgary. It's not a big city.
Yeah.
Tesla's
So
everywhere, Ella.
very, very, very interesting. Oh, wow. Yeah. All right. Um, Very interesting. I actually like what I'm seeing. Although we got to go through some complicated stuff to get to the better stuff down here.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but we are in process. So, interesting, right? I'm being shown for us to look at this world dancer. So the world dancer is sort of like the rebirth card, and it is the last of the 22 major arcana, which basically means it's the final step of like the spiritual initiation process that we all go through.
Okay.
And so this final step is sort of like the ending and a new beginning. So that's why it describes the concept of rebirth. It's a very positive card. It always sort of, uplifts the cards around it, and it's surrounded by some mostly positive cards, except for us here, but I'll talk about that in a minute. And you'll see that this world dancer is holding two batons or rods. Interesting, the whole idea of, magnetism, balancing out magnetic poles, polar balancing. You see how she's holding two rods, one in each hand. And I'm really being drawn to that today. When we do readings, we look at there's a lot of different symbols in the card, and there's a lot of interpretation that goes with one card, like the world, for example. But what I, teach my students to do is look at what their eye is drawn to today, because that is a lot about what sort of like the guidance wants us to be looking at right now. And I'm really noticing those two rods today, and that idea of magnetism, polarity,
North Pole, South Pole kind of thing. Okay.
You got it.
Yeah.
So, and it's also the other thing about this, because then the answer is the Two of Cups. You see the alchemy, the two snakes winding around the pole.
Yes.
And the balance or harmonic sort of equalization of the two sides, the cups that being handed between the man and the woman.
Right.
So what I'm being shown is, in this instance at the moment, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing.
Right.
But there is a lot of exposure. You'll see the world dancer is literally naked almost entirely. So there's this sense of things are coming to the surface. They can't be hidden anymore. And what I've been saying for a lot of years is, gosh, it's not necessarily that all the people in different positions of power and authority are doing nefarious things on purpose. There are agendas, and there are, power dominant models that are always trying to disrupt and hijack energy and so on. But I do feel like all the way through history, there's been white hats, there's been positive forces that are trying to balance things out.
Right.
So what the problem is, they're saying the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, meaning there's a lot of there's a desire to control things like nature, the weather, and so on.
Right.
Some of it is just for nefarious purposes to gain, to sort of wipe out a lot of humanity and have more power and dominance in this earthly system. But some of it is actually in response to these big events like, solar storms, pole shifts, and so on.
Right.
So what I'm being shown is that, and what I've always felt is that, how do we as humanity say, we're grown up enough now, we're mature enough, you can share some of the concerns with us, and let's bring our greatest minds together to come up with solutions, because that's what I'm getting here, is that we've got different sides that are both manipulating.
There you go. Because Ricky Green saying it's been reported that the white hats and the black hats are in a weather war now. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds right. And so it's, but a lot of it is panic driven, right? Because it's like, neither one, they both kind of know, at least the white hats for sure know, that there's no such thing as controlling nature. You can create responses that, can either help nature or hinder nature.
Yes.
They would be I'm guessing, a lot more thorough in acknowledging that you can't just, this is one of the things too, is that humanity tends to be very impatient. They want an instant result. So let's say you do something in nature and nature goes kind of wild and wonky for like a decade or two or three to right itself and readjust to that.
Okay.
Well, humanity's just going like, they get impatient and they're just like, okay, now, oh no, now we're gonna, overcorrect, like driving on the icy road, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're this way.
Yeah.
Oh, you got too much heat. Okay, let's put cold on. You got too much cold. Okay, let's put heat on.
Well, we got to fix it.
We gotta fix
We're gonna fix it, right? Yeah.
So what I feel like is, we're intending and we're calling in here with this magician is let's bring more of this out onto the table and have, more debates and less sort of, I want to see knee-jerk reactions and
less reactionary.
And I think both sides and us as well need to acknowledge that we're going to go through, okay, I always like to do this when I do readings. I like to give the long version so that people don't go like, why isn't it happening right now? So let's say 50 years. Let's say 50 years of weather doing some really big spiking, wild, woo stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's small in the natural cycle. That's like a nanosecond.
Yeah.
But for us, that's the rest of our lives, right? And maybe the lives of our kids. So it feels like a really huge inconvenience, but we're not here just for convenience. We're here to respond to this beautiful planet and the wild natural forces in the best, most integral way we can.
It's interesting because we've been so comfortable. I was interpreting at, say, so I'm a sign language interpreter, right? And anyway, so I was interpreting for this long-time architecture instructor. And he said that he's like, all we can do is 20 degrees now, like temperate. We can't do too cold, can't do too hot. And he's like, because we're so used to a cushy way of living, right? So it's like us out of our comfort zone in another way, right? And like any crisis kind of pulls us together and makes us have to help each other and do all of that. So I think that's super interesting. So it's freezing in California, so strangely cold.
Yeah.
I know in some places, if they don't have the blankets or the infrastructure, like some people, it's really, really bad. And some.
Yeah. So how do we respond? Let's start with, this is the advice, the moon and the 5 of Pentacles. We've got 2 5s here. 5s are chaos and potentially crisis and change, although they're also growth and evolution. They're fast. 5s are the ones that kind of come in and give us a little jolt. Right. Okay. 2 of a kind is mastery. So we're like you said, Sue, it's almost like if you think about humanity as being this cushy, we've got a lot of us in Western civilization have grown into being pretty cush, not really used to putting ourselves out of our comfort zone. But then you think even in that genre, in our, cross section of Western civilization, there are people that do extreme sports. There's people that do, like distant swimmers that put themselves through all kinds of like physical hardship.
Cold plunges. Lots of people are doing this.
And it's like, there's people that have the option to live a total cushy life and they still sometimes push themselves. So it's not actually like, just atrocious to think that a little bit of pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone would be good for us. Like it's not.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely good for us, actually. I think we're controlled because we've been so comforted and palliated and entertained. And just
interesting. Interesting you say palliated. That's a very interesting word because that's like palliative, which is going to sleep forever.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Lights out.
Lights out, dying, right? So we've been palliated, we've been put to sleep with all
Yeah.
this luxury and all this, like, you never challenge yourself.
Apparently
And
that's how the Romans did it, right? They just got everyone drunk and entertained, and it was like, well, good night, everybody.
so can we say, like, it's interesting because I was looking out at the crazy weather this morning before I got in my vehicle and tackled it for like 40 minutes. And along the way, by the way, my daughter and I were both going like, man, only Canadians and maybe Russians, like, or the Nordic folk, like, you just learn and you deal with some unbelievable situations and it becomes kind of normal, right? It's like, oh, we're sliding sideways down a hill and we do a jackknife and it's like, oh yeah, you just kind of pull yourself up. Going to work, right?
Like, yeah, woo, made it. Well, shit, keep going. Yeah.
Oh, there's a big truck coming. Whoa, good thing I was sliding that way.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's so scared. And then the person can't make it up the hill. Everybody jumps out and pushes. And
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Very
I mean,
long.
it sounds like fun, but it's definitely like
white knuckling it to work, and everyone's like, "Shit, I'm so glad you made it." Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah, it's so true.
And yet, it does make us strong. It does make us hardy. I mean, I always like to say that during the, during the trucker rally, it was like, oh, like
40 below.
40 below.
40 below, yeah.
These aren't people that are just going on a tra-la-la. Like,
yeah.
What was it, like 3,500 kilometers or something? And
they say that our highway is the largest crystalline grid in the world. Our #1 highway across Canada. And I was told in a session, this one girl was saying that what came through was that crystals form in the cold. And so we need to embrace the cold because that's how the crystals form.
So there's something about, let's look at this because we're mastering, overcoming, feeling like really scared. Like, for example, I guess what I'm trying to say is if we can see this as an emergence and instead of an emergency, we can see it as an invitation to kind of emerge a little more whole as humanity, not so palliative, not so palliated. Like, it's okay to have some challenge.
We're wired for challenge, they say. And so that's the idea, right?
And they always say, if you choose it, it's empowering. If you feel it's done to you and you're a victim of it,
it's happening to us, right? It's not happening to us, it's happening for us. And absolutely. So I think lots of people are freaking out about the weather, but maybe it's so it's balancing out, like you said.
Balancing out. And it is both sides trying to adjust to a lot that's going on with solar activity and with pole magnetics.
Okay, this is a cool question, but so it says, why does the snow not melt when you apply fire and instead it turns black? I did see a video of this a couple years ago, just saw it live on PPN, and all around others have reported the same thing. So it's this gooey, it's not like the snow we know, And then the next question is Solistic Sparkle Laura is asking, half moon today. What does the collective have to look forward to for the rest of the lunar cycle?
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, let's look at this idea of the snow that turns black.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Okay, well, that's nice.
And Ricky was saying my idea of cold weather is wearing my socks with my flip-flops. Yeah, we're talking how cold that is.
So, just to finish off what we were saying about the other, it's like, as we deal with different conditions in different locations, we can help each other, right? Like, we can give you all some tips on how to deal with snow and cold. Just call us up and ask us some questions. We got the answers, I'll tell you.
Yeah. I like to pull over at the tobogganing hill and then just down the hill a couple of times. You launch off. We have this. Just to keep it real,
Yeah, I feel like there is, if we see ourselves more also as, because that world card and that magician, if we see ourselves in this together as opposed to, all isolated and dealing with crises in our little region. It's like it's a more holistic, larger systemic focus. And yeah, I'm hearing that the dark hats, let's call them, are they're having less and less and less influence. We may be looking at decades of nature's going to go through stuff regardless if none of the other interference was happening. So what I was shown was that some of that interference is actually beneficial to us and nature.
Okay.
So it's not a black and white, like this is all bad. Now, interesting, we're talking about black snow that doesn't melt. Okay. So far, this is looking good. So surprise, I am definitely surprised.
Okay.
7 of Wands. Okay, because we are showing up as the star. So this could be star. Yeah, I feel like what I'm hearing, because that was the first thing I saw, was meteorite stuff. Something in the meteoric atmosphere that's coming to Earth.
Far
or that's already here, and it's being
Is it good though? Like, is it?
Well, so far it looks like that. Let me finish. Oh yeah. Okay. Wow. Like, okay, this is this is the opposite of what I would have thought, but
Okay.
This is actually for our benefit. This is for our benefit.
Yeah, such a cool question, Laura, because I saw it too, and it was like, oh my God, what is happening now, right?
So what I'm hearing, we've got intergalactic, role being played here, and I was all right away. I was going, oh, this is meteoric, and then it's connected to the magnetics, so it somehow is held in the water, and then when you go to melt it, the water, this meteoric material emerges.
Is it like a shungite, or is it like a protector or something, or?
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly it. It's meteoric. It's like everything about this. Just those of you who do cards, I'm going to read out the cards and you'll know what I'm talking about. We're the star. The answer's the Ace of Pentacles. We've got 7 of Wands in the past, 10 of Cups in the present, the Temperance card in the future, and our advice is Knight of Pentacles and 9 of Pentacles. This is for our benefit. And I'm very surprised, but there we go.
That's exciting.
It is like
happening for but there's this law of non-interference, apparently, right? So they're helping, and I get that, but can they help, or can they influence, or is it people have called them in, or how does that work? Because with that, and I don't want to keep adding, but I was just going to say what I've heard is that there's a fourth wave of volunteers coming in, and that's how they manage to intervene.
So what I'm being shown is there's different versions of non-interference. We know as parents, particularly as moms.
Yeah.
Right? They're showing the mother and child here. So as moms, we know it's really hard to break the habit of interference with our kids. Like, obviously, when your kids are little, you have to interfere.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Don't put your hand on that stove. Don't walk out in front of traffic. Like, you have to interfere, right?
Yes. Yep.
But then there's that as they mature, your interference becomes literally that. It becomes interference that is actually detrimental.
Mm-hmm. So yes. Yep.
What I'm getting is that there's universal laws that the guides are saying there's universal laws for parents as well. Like, when we over interfere when it's beyond the point where it doesn't, there's checks and balances happening, and it becomes like interfering with the free will of others, which we're going to pay for. Like, it's going to come back and bite us, right? And we know that as parents. We don't do it out of malicious intent. We do it because we've formed a habit of showing our love that way.
Yep. Yes. It makes sense. And sometimes we're just like crippling them. I don't know if it's around 18, but a friend of mine, she started dating this hippie guy, and she did some magic mushrooms, and her cat told her that there were spirit animals around her daughter, and that she was her actually just needed to call them in now, or just know that they were there. And she showed her this dog, and it was like, time to back away. She's an adult, and that she's actually, like you were saying, interfering. So like I always think that too. It's like, well, you can do something. You can pray, you can say, hey, I know your guide's got you, hold them capable.
Well, and so the other piece, which I'm going to pull cards on because I'm curious about this even as a parent, as a mom, is they're saying sometimes acting on your own initiative and interest has the result of interfering. So it's you know, it's all done with love, but sometimes, you know how they say, you know, look after yourself, and that will create a ripple effect in your partnership with your kids.
Everything shifts around you, they say, right? And everybody
around you. So it's not always comfortable for them in the beginning because you've changed, and they're going like, you know, like,
whoa.
Right. Or whatever effect it has on them that you're looking out for your own needs creates conflict or challenge for them. That's kind of what I'm getting so far about the interference principle. Like, they're not going to rescue us. They're not doing anything to purposely hurt us. They are also, in looking after themselves, it's having an effect on us in looking after their own. So what's in the highest good? You know, when we say these statements like for the greater good of all, which I say all the time when I'm doing my work, it doesn't always look like it's good, right? Sometimes it looks like we're hurting someone, but we're actually doing our own sovereign thing. And the effect that's going to have on them is going to wake them up. It's going to cause them to face things about themselves. It's going to cause them to grow and evolve. And that is for their greater good, even if it looks like it's harming them initially. So it gets a little complicated. Let's have a look here. 6 of Swords, that's us. 6 of Swords. Yeah, so the interference, 9 of Cups, it's like, it's the longer game. It's the longer game. So again, I'm not getting, you know, interference for manipulative purposes, which is about basically controlling the outcomes.
Yep.
That's different.
Okay.
Yeah. And a little bit, you know, like we can say, and this is what I've been getting all day today, is that it's, in some ways, the dark force controllers have it in their minds that they know what's best for us better than we know.
Right.
And that's part of what's created this messy unfolding all the way along. It's like, you know, they say, oh, well, we can see that the population explosion is going to have this impact, or, you know, we have this whatever ability to see these impacts, and humanity is not mature enough to handle that information. So we're not going to let them make choices or form their own, you know, form their own organizations to analyze different options and ways to work with it. We're just going to do it for them. We're just going to slam the lid down and control them.
They've been babying us.
And you know, they don't know
that or whatever that is. You know what I mean? It's like spoon feeding us.
Yeah. So it feels like we've turned that corner, especially in the last couple of years, of course.
Because we're becoming more sovereign and less codependent, I think.
Yeah. And they're saying one of the best ways you can tell as a parent that you're not doing that anymore, and to see the effect of the controllers not doing that anymore, is that there's a lot of generosity across the board. Like, instead of parents saying, you know, oh, well, I'm going to manipulate you into this direction because I think that's what's best for you, and only then will I be generous to you. There's just this overall generosity and strength, but also good boundaries.
Yes.
So there's generosity with good boundaries and non-attachment. So it's very much like relationship stuff, right? And when we see the political, the whole system operating differently, not in that dominant, like, let's tell you what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, because we know best, but in this, like, let's share what is available, but also have boundaries about not just taking from each other. So anyway, we're going to see a shift in this. And
it's almost like on the micro and the macro, right? It's just like kids and parents, or however we're looking at that, and then the greater picture, right? Very totally. I can see that. It makes sense. We're going to the Aquarian age. We're sovereign, right? Yes. Independent, sovereign, and that makes tons of sense. So the next one was what the half moon.
Yes.
Holistic Sparkalora, the collective. What do we have to look for the rest of this full?
So far, that looks pretty awesome. 6 of Pentacles, 6 of Cups, 2 of a kind is mastery, and 6s are harmony. They are also reciprocity and sharing. So emotional sharing and material sharing. Yeah, that's lovely. Let's see what else Spirit wants to say for us about the latter half of this moon cycle. Gosh, aren't we fortunate to know as much as we do now about astrology, and how, because if it was ever important and helpful, it is now. People say, well, where did all this astrology stuff come from? Like, now you see it all over the internet. And I'm like, well, it has always been there, but it's definitely there big time now, because we need to understand more what's happening. So, yeah.
I think we're trying to get in, bring back control of our own lives, our own internal compass, and our own guide.
Yes.
More and more people are looking for that, I would say,
Yeah, definitely. So we're coming out of it's interesting, because I feel like in the next 7 weeks, like this next couple of weeks is quite a lot about setting the tone for the next 7 weeks. And I recall that a couple of months ago, I was seeing that March 2024, we're going to sort of reconnect with a destiny line that we were all on before March 2020. So there's something about, like, coming out of the fog, like, we've been 4 years in, like, whether we are locked down physically or not, we are still locked down energetically, like trauma wise. So
right. Did it carry on longer than it was supposed to?
I don't know in the way of supposed to, like,
I think, because what I've heard too is that it's like, well, they really didn't realize how sleepy and programmed we were, and they thought we would, like, we'd get on board faster. And so there's lots of different.
And that's that thing about, a sort of judging the natural response, because I always like to say that movie, the Biggest Little Farm, if you've ever seen it. I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it's a great movie. It's about a couple that transform this terribly depleted property and turn it into this phenomenal oasis of
like city people who'd never been on a farm, and they're
like fruit trees and like organic farms and animals and everything, right? Yeah. But what's interesting in that movie is that it took them 10 years, and there was several moments like they did everything right and things went really awry.
Right.
And the reason for that is it's the nature trying to fix itself. Right? So you put these positive stimuluses in, and then all the sort of chaos still has to work itself out. And instead of reacting each time one of those things happened, they were taught by their mentor to just step back, observe, kind of take the path of least resistance,
Right.
and then watch how nature tried to eventually right itself. And it took 10 years. And their mentor said it would take 10 years for that whole process to happen, even if they were doing everything right. That's what I'm getting here. It's like even with the positive influence of, the whiter hats or the lighter hats or whatever, it's like, it's going to take as long as it takes. Like it's a natural process of healing, and there's so much to be healed. There's so much to be healed. It's
And then
not.
what is time anyways, and you look at the big scheme of things, our life is just, a couple minutes, 5 minutes,
Yeah. So I feel like what we really want to gauge, instead of that, oh gosh, like, so this next week or 2 weeks, we really want to gauge how quickly we bounce back, how we are steadily more and more emotionally engaged and creatively engaged. Okay, so like that's one thing I try to sometimes imagine back before March of 2020. And one thing I know is that when I got into funks and, kind of depressed places, I could stay there for a really long time. And now I've noticed it just doesn't last as long. I mean, there's a lot of this, right? But I just don't seem to get locked in to the funk for as long. It's exhausting still, but it's different. It's different. And that's what they're saying. Like this next week, notice your emotional resiliency and your creative bounce back, like your inspiration, your motivation. Just notice how it doesn't stay down for long. That's a good indicator of how far along we are. Not that
they
still
say
not a whole pile of stuff landing on us every day or two, right?
Yeah. But that's how we know, like, you're progressing in therapy or whatever. It's just like, oh, let's see if it just, that used to be a month for me. Now it's an hour, so that's how you notice your progress. It's different. That's pretty cool, though. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Someone was like west of so many hobby farm, west of Rocky Mountain House here in Alberta. So Canada, where I am in Alberta, it's warmed up now, but there's a chemical smell in the air. No one lives around us. Any thoughts? And then Angela Jones says precipitation does clean the air. Maybe we're having a massive cleansing.
Yeah. Okay. Chemical smell
and massive cleansing. Can we put those together?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, we will, right?
Right.
Yeah. So with that in thought, like, what else does this precipitation do? Like, does it bring in anything else? Does it bring in energy or anything spiritually or?
There's that card again. Look at that. The
Healing?
balance, the healing card. Yep.
Yep.
And precipitation, is it cleansing? What do we need to know about the smell in the air? Yeah. Okay. So, Okay, I'm going to pull some more cards. Give me a sec here, folks. I got to think about this. I got to like tune into this. It's interesting. Yes. Yes to both. Right. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. 3 of Swords. Lots of swords here. Lots of swords. Oh, and the 5. Okay. So again, both. And I feel like, yeah, the chemical smell is always concerning. And I've smelled that too.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting is right now, there is quite a lot of sort of challenging stuff to our systems, the natural systems, to our physical bodies, our health. But, it's sort of that thing. I have that sometimes where I'm working with clients and they talk about how they went through a whole series of health crises, and they were like, what is wrong with me? I'm just breaking down, and it's becoming more and more sensitive to things. And then in the end, what is often revealed is that they had to kind of go through that process to learn about their, what worked for them and what didn't, and to have the cleansing, to have the healing. Sometimes it's like we take, they're saying like we take an emetic herb to get sick to our stomach or something. So it's not good for us, but in the long run, it could be part of our greater healing. So again, though, it's like, ideally this isn't going to go on this way for much longer because it's not necessary, is what I'm getting. It's like, so getting those chemicals out of the air, out of the sky in the next 3 or 4 years, that's the timeline I'm seeing. We don't need them indefinitely. And it would be, it's hard on our systems. So,
but it's got to get purged out of the system. Is that the idea? And
kind of, I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting. It feels like it's really hard to answer those two questions together in a way, but it's, it is, it's both, but right now it feels more negative than helpful, unfortunately.
Okay. Fair enough. Because Laurie Marr is saying precipitation, acid rain, perhaps.
Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't take a, PhD in chemistry to figure out. We've seen it in our lifetime, the smokestacks, the everything.
Yeah. How long can we sustain this? Do you know the other thing? We have this thing called worrying disease. Go ahead.
Well, it does also look like it has had the effect of creating, just like when you prune a tree, it comes back stronger. So even though like we have this idea that chemicals are bad, what we've done with them is evil, and there's no repair, the nature will never repair from this, will never come back from it. All the nanoplastics, all the chemical pesticides, this, that, and the other, right? But it does feel like what I'm sensing is that nature's saying, oh no, we have a plan for this, and it actually will create a stimulus for new growth.
Wow, that's resilience.
That might take some time, right? Oh, look at that card. Did you see that? It just flew across the table, and the Queen of Wands came underneath. So this is where we're going in the Aquarian ages. We're looking at how do we work with nature and not against nature.
Yes, with the cycles of nature, is following the laws of nature in the universe and God's laws.
With the feedback that isn't demanding an instant result. That's the thing that we really need to get beyond.
Yeah, it's almost instant result. Pop in the pill, give me the med bed. Let's get on with this. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Garden House says, I loved how they use nature to cure problems, like the ducks eating the snail invasion. Little big fun. Yeah, it was so brilliant. Okay, so I'm on Vancouver Island. We had a huge dump of snow overnight and all morning. Right? All of that. All right. So I don't see any more questions here. So we could go with, do you want me to ask?
Yes. Sure.
So what I'm wondering is, so about this fourth wave of volunteers, is there a fourth wave of volunteers coming in? And are they coming in as like babies? Because, with the new little ones coming in, what is they say they're coming in with their DNA intact and all of that. So what's this new generation going to look like? And then just to follow up on that, and I know it's a lot, you don't have to do it here, but yeah, so there was a product put into the market that wasn't previously here, and so certainly there were pregnant mothers and babies that were perhaps influenced. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start off with the fourth wave.
Okay.
Um, mhm. Oh boy, oh
Wow.
boy, oh boy,
That's
oh
interesting. That's galactic, right?
boy. Um,
I know.
so just a second. Whoa. Yeah. These are big
Okay.
cards. Three
Okay.
major arcana.
Okay.
Um,
Right.
so I would say um, work is in process it's not quite here yet. I would think maybe 10 years.
Okay.
They're waiting for something to, again, we are in a free will universe.
Yeah.
And we are, oh yeah, we're in a free will universe, and we're, what do they want me to say about this? Possibly, again, like the reaction, or the 4 years in lockdown energetically and psychologically before we can pop ourselves out of that. Timelines are adjustable, and it needs to be that way, because we don't want to rush it, because then it falls on its face, right? It has to be really real, or it won't
It's like
stick.
it's like a lot of therapy and never integrating, Just never
Mm-hmm.
doing the integration process, never grounding it.
And not judging that, right? I think it's our egos that say, well, I want the goods while I'm alive. Like, come on. Like, I waited all these years and I've done
I
all
did
this work on myself. I deserve that it's good now. And, of course, we're going to get
Yes,
feisty and say, give me
sometimes.
this, right?
Yeah.
And maybe we can access a lot of the goods without everybody being on board. Like, it will be better for us that we know as much as we do, and it will be better for us as we, step into different frequencies of creating abundance, even amidst all the turmoil. So all of that is very possible. But does it depend on the fourth wave of volunteers coming this week? It doesn't depend on that. There's so many factors. So the good thing is, it does seem as though it's in process. Now,
Okay.
it's interesting because I said, oh boy, I
Yeah.
kept hearing there's something about a lot of boys coming, a lot of males coming. I wonder what that's
Oh
about.
my.
Yeah.
Little active little boys. Yeah.
Well, like, there's something about a new masculine coming.
Oh, to change
There's
the
a new
masculine.
masculine coming, and
What does he look like? So that to me looks like sovereignty or like,
well, it's interesting. I'm hearing like 4-1. Now,
oh my goodness, wow.
you heard it here first, folks.
4 to 1, boys to girls. Oh my goodness.
All the eyes are
Yeah. Oh, good. Wow.
our granddaughters are going to be smiling.
Yeah. It's a good times to be alive, I'm hearing.
Well, and interestingly, that's fascinating, because when you have that many males in ratio to females,
Yeah.
females are going to be a lot more highly regarded.
So is that part of the reason that is happening? So you get the high priestess, almost the matriarch.
It's really not about like women ruling over men. It's about an adjustment of value. And,
Mhm.
men have been, well, they've been, unfortunately, the fodder for all these wars. So, and if it is a relatively equal ratio of men to women being born, and then you have so many men dying in, like challenging work environments and wars and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And it used to be balanced out because a lot of women died in childbirth, but now, thankfully, we have so many amazing interventions that prevent that. So
Right.
it's just going to be, I feel like, who gets to choose to have children, how they're treated, how that's honored. If it's a
So,
much greater ratio of men to women, it's going to be a whole.
so honored. She'll be so taken care of. And being able
Mhm.
to connect with the baby and be able to even
Yeah.
start the whole process, which many of us didn't get that opportunity.
So that's a very fascinating.
I almost thought it'd be the other way around. More girls would be born, but that's so interesting. But I see what you're saying.
It's just what I saw, what they showed me. So it's very
Yeah,
interesting.
okay, so here's the thing. Okay, so okay. How many people are there actually? Okay, so they're like, they say there's like a lot of what are they, non-player characters or whatever,
Mhm.
right? And then it's like, yeah, the backdrop people that came out of Dolores Cannon's work, and then there's like, they're telling us we're just so overpopulated, and all of that, and so then we've been into this whole depopulation idea, and so,
Mhm.
like, yeah, how many people are there? I don't know. We're in Canada. You can drive a long ways without seeing anybody. People come here and they're like,
We've got a distorted perception.
there's no gas stations. Yeah, I know. Right? Like so, lots up here. Can't grow anything right now, but there's lots up here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Solistic Sparkalora said, beautifully said. So,
Thank you. Okay. Very interesting. Well, I think it's curious because like, who's keeping track of that is sort of the beginning of the question. And
right. Who's counting? But when it comes to
how are they counting and why are they counting? So
yeah.
And
how are they counting exactly?
So there's something here about longevity and children being born.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like, as I said before, there's going to be some kind of a change in how that's viewed. And again, it's not going to come from a government centralized power dominant authority like they did in China, the one child policy and all that kind of stuff. It's like, when you create that kind of mentality that is top down, without people understanding the complexity of it all. It's sort of like nature has a way of showing us what is reasonable and what is desirable. So it's like we're going to come into a new way of working with this that isn't in the mind. It has a lot more to do with people are going to start to value things like health,
Right.
like, just equal distribution of resources, or like abundance for everybody. Instead of it being like everyone deserves to be on this planet and to not go hungry. What kind of a standard is that? What kind of a standard is you deserve to be here and not go hungry? That's all you deserve?
Right.
Like we got to get out of that. We don't deserve to be here and not go hungry. We deserve to be here and live a phenomenal, meaningful,
Joyful, loving,
abundant, integrated life.
Oh, nice.
One only, homogenized version of what that looks like. And
agreed. And that's what you get top down, is homogenized. Everyone colors the same fish at school.
Yeah, like it, and it doesn't mean that people who have disabilities or challenges in different ways don't have a place here.
Yeah.
But it means that our standard of what we think everyone deserves, it goes way up.
Nice.
And then if we're saying we are all choosing 9 of Cups, the wish fulfilled, we're saying we want to create a world, an environment where it's a pleasure to live here for all humans. Wow. And if it starts to go out of that balance, we're going to create our own response to that, right? So I can't remember what.
Coming back to us is the point.
It comes back to us, and it's a very natural, organic thing. It's not told to us that we have to follow a law or a rule. we respond based on, it's interesting. I remember watching, I don't remember what movie it was, but in it, there was this indigenous leader that said, we're going through all of this. It was from back a long time ago, 150 years ago or something. And they were like, we're going through this. Our young couples are going to choose, however they choose, through some forms of birth control or something, but they're going to choose to not bring children in right now, because in their worldview, according to their spiritual truths and ethics, this isn't the time. So they will choose, they'll just sort of internally look at, and it's not about fear. It's actually about quality of life. It's like, well, this many of us are not going to have a quality of life under these circumstances at the moment.
So it's almost a natural response. Like the hunters and gatherers, apparently they had one child. That was that. They didn't have.
Yeah, or they did have a natural way of somehow sensing what was appropriate.
Sure. Yeah.
And I believe that we can actually, our bodies will start to act differently. Our bodies will start to respond.
Okay, so I just want to say, so Solistic Sparkle Laura says free will universe equals ask, so you can receive. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I just on what you were saying is that, so I have a friend that works as a doula, mm-hmm. and she said the mothers are hemorrhaging like she's never seen. Mm-hmm. And mothers who didn't make this particular choice either, but perhaps the midwives she had speculated had been, and so maybe that was part of the influence, and then just maybe like more miscarriages and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And is that an intervention? What is that exactly?
Yes. Now again, let's not go into fear. Let's not go into anger and reaction. Let's not say, how could this be done to us? How horrible. Like, I'm not trying to advocate that, making decisions on behalf of others around such sensitive topics are appropriate. I'm not. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is that there's a deep wisdom on this earth and in our human, I want to say, dignity in our origins, that is trying to do something. And it's not just a knee-jerk reaction like that's destructive. It's trying to do something helpful. It's trying to do something that brings balance and harmony. So instead of just looking at what we're losing, what about what we're getting? Like, let's start by considering that there's going to be a new standard that isn't imposed by a government down, but it's an internal sort of integral standard of, like, it could be so much better here, and it's going to be. And we're holding space for that. As we do that, the more of us that do that, it starts to up-level the whole system. And people, why is it that we accept such a low standard of like, oh, your right is to be here and not starve? Wow.
Where did we get that from? Yeah.
That
total lack mentality. But look, I think what I was getting at earlier too is that are there less people than they're making it out to be, this whole overpopulation thing? Is there like actually not that many people, or?
Okay, so what I'm getting, they're saying, be careful of this question. So one of the things that I'm getting is that it fluctuates more than we're being led to believe.
Oh, like births and deaths and people coming in and out and all that.
Yeah, like it fluctuates quite dramatically. In shorter cycles than we think. So, what are these? Yeah, like when you've got these projections of it's growing and now it's this and now it's 8 billion, now it's 10 billion, blah, 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 and it's just going to exponentially keep growing like that. It's like they're showing massive fluctuation. And it's so what we're talking about is kind of like the money markets. It's kind of like saying that you can see what's going to happen financially based on the models of projection that you build. But there's a whole lot of factors right now going on this planet. A lot. I mean, obviously, all of what's just happened, but not only that. So what I'm getting is that it's anywhere from 20 to 40% off either way is what I'm being shown. So average 30% off either way. And that literally goes through cycles, gosh, like regularly. Because we have, if you think about it, it's not like just this little, like, thing that you drop some coin into and it gets bigger or whatever. It's like there's a lot of people going and a lot of people coming. There's a lot of flux in and out.
Much when you're looking at a massive planet like this, right?
Yeah. So it's hard to nail those numbers down, and that is wrong. How they're trying to nail those numbers down is wrong.
Right.
Like it's.
And do we even bother focusing on it, really? I mean,
no. What we focus on is improving that standard.
Yeah, for those of us that are here or coming in, or for the future,
improving the standard, as opposed to, because people will automatically adjust once a standard is sort of created. Yeah. People will automatically adjust.
Right.
And that's what the control is.
And then it shifts in the precedent.
Well, because you can just feel, I mean, for one, we definitely know when you look at the controllers, they had a huge role in creating this like extreme system. And, even up till very recently, when I was in Mexico last spring, I met this man. He was, probably in his 70s. His mother was from somewhere back east in Canada, and they were Catholic. And the priest had come when she was on her 13th, 14th child or something. He had like that many siblings. And had said to her something about, why aren't you pregnant again? Like the priest was making his rounds and said to this woman who'd already birthed 13 kids, why aren't you pregnant again?
Oh my God.
And she politely shooed him out of the house, but never opened the door to him again.
Hi, Betty.
So, and I mean, Industrial Revolution, right? You needed workers. So the politic and the religion promoted like massive families. They promoted it and demanded it in a way.
Yeah, well, it's like, what is it, multiply? What is it in the Bible, But, you got to wonder how things have been altered that way or whatever. It doesn't mean, have 14 kids. And like you said, women weren't even making it through childbirth. So
and even also
the body, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, totally. And even also as the numbers were expected to go up.
Yeah.
The quality of life was going down.
Right. Children working, right?
We've been in this weird trajectory of a mass production with low quality. Right.
Yeah, with children on top of it. Yeah. So Jill Woodman, do you want to take this one? She said, thank you both. Love from the UK. If you rip up a soul contracts, you rip up just because I hear this.
Right.
Rip up soul contracts with people and family. Will they know?
Hey,
I did a cord cutting one time with somebody and I got feedback the next day. It was super interesting. Through somebody else. Yeah, it was so interesting. But
well, interesting. It's an interesting choice of it's an interesting choice of words.
Morris Cannon talked about ripping them up, right? It's like, oh well.
So, and interesting. they're saying contract and that analogy, it's useful to shift the mind out of looping thoughts, but it doesn't
Oh,
really hold a lot of weight because soul contracts are written in the soil. They're written in the earth. They're written in the like they're in the land. It's in our bones. It's in our blood. It's not in a written contract. It's not something you can rip up, but you can rip up the part of the story.
I love it. Well, when you rip it up though in your mind, would that stop the loop? Like, is that
Yeah, it's not the contract because the contract it isn't made of,
you didn't like sign it?
yeah, well, it isn't made of something that we can think about. It's energetic. So it's not something but you can change the way you think about it. That's the
Contract is a
analogy of
mind loop.
ripping it up.
A contract is a mind loop, essentially.
It's a construct of the mind. So it's like, energetically, you're going to be tied to these people, and you'll work through all of those things in whatever amount of time it takes. And it's not, but you can change what your belief is about that. You can change what you have, I almost want to say like the part of your agreement that you no longer agree with. You can totally stop that. You can totally stop that. And will they feel it? Again, if it's done in that way, if it's done in, this is the part I no longer agree with, you can't just make them disappear. But
Come on.
like,
Yeah.
no longer agree with this part, and immediately it actually liberates them.
Okay, so Carmen says get the bulldozer started. LOL. All the contracts. It's like
Get the bulldozer started.
yeah.
Well, again, okay, I want to end with this, folks, and
Okay.
I do say this a lot in my ancestral healing work too. Again, it's sort of like we are going to this place energetically where we say, I just want the bad stuff to go away. Can we just all survive and have food to eat? Or can the bad family just go away and leave me alone? Can this bad, pattern from my ancestor just stop? Can we just rip it up and end it right now? And it's like, why stop there? Why stop there? Because there's no way we can stop our DNA. We can't stop we can't stop what's already underway in the earth on this planet, like the relationship, the consequences, the karma that we've incurred. We can't just rip that up and make it go away. So why not say, like, I'm going to rip up my agreement to do things in a way that's been harmful to me and the other. And I'm actually going to imagine that not only do we all get through this, but we all, look at this, 10 of Cups, better than you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So do we really want to just annihilate these people, the past, the negative karma, or do we want to transmute it into something beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
And if we stop at I just want to end, sever, rip, annihilate,
Yep.
then we can't get beyond the karma wheel,
You kind of truncate it. I think, so Dolores would say, you forgive and you kind of, and this would rip up the contract and say, you go your way, I go mine, and we're good, so that kind of came from that.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps this is more of a new paradigm thinking and what came in at the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, right?
I mean, what I'm hearing is boundaries around taking on the negativity and reacting from that place, or living from that compromised place. And absolutely, we rip that up. And that is all in understanding and awareness and intention.
Okay.
But
Yes.
Deeper places, if we want to annihilate, destroy, or condemn or exclude anything, we are cutting off parts of ourselves. So it's getting to that place where you're like, not just getting to neutral. We want to grow beyond bare minimum.
We're trying to evolve here, right? So it's the greatest good of all, for all. And if you make that positive shift, then you influence everybody around you.
And I mean, thank you for the humor too. Like, get the bulldozer started. It's like, I love it. I mean, yeah, we got to move some earth too, right? We got to like, and interesting. It's mind and then physicality. So there's one thing to stop thinking a certain way. There's a different thing to stop creating a different result in your life. So like a lot of times I've experienced and witnessed, and for myself too, I can change my understanding, my thought loops, my agreements with family or circumstances or whatever. But I'm actually still somehow producing the same result.
Right.
You know, and I find myself going like, I'm living that pattern still, even though I've intentionally stopped it. So there is something about like, again, we're building back better than, I mean, that's a terrible, isn't that what they
very cliche
always said? Building back better. But let's take it from them and turn it into something else. Like we are like, we are not just stopping and making boundaries. We're actually intending to do our part to create a new, better version of that thing. So you don't have to do it with that person or with the offending family members. But again, it's not about just excluding. It's about transmuting, basically.
Because it's all energy, Sally Starr says. You're right, transmute it. Don't disconnect from it. Dark to light. Building back
beyond better. Yay! Yeah, good. We will take it to building back beyond better. I love it.
Yes.
Aw. Well, it's been really lovely, everyone. I've got to go on to my first reading of the day. Thank you so much, Sue.
What a joy. That was amazing.
Truly, truly. So yeah, if you like what I do, please connect with me in the links below. You can book a reading. I am teaching my Tarot Level 1 class, starts on February 3rd, runs for 6 consecutive Saturdays. You can find out more about that in the links below as well. And you can also find Sue and her work, her hypnotherapy work, on her website in the links below. So have a beautiful week, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.